Greetings, I'm Michael Quinn Patton, coming to you with some rare good news. Certainly we are surrounded by a lot of bad news, but today, April 8, 2022, we had some good news. In the midst of the climate emergency, and in the same week that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released its third report, saying now or never if the world is to stave off climate disaster, meaning that the call is for all hands on deck, that in that same week, the week ended with an announcement that countries have pledged record support to the Global Environment Facility. And that's worth celebrating. And so to the jazz musician Joel Cummins' song, Resolve, in the hopes that the countries resolve to meet this pledge and that we all resolve to do what we can to mitigate climate change, I want to celebrate both that announcement and provide some backstory about the role of evaluation in that work. Because evaluation and the work of the Independent Evaluation Office of the GEF has contributed to the confidence countries can have that the funds will indeed be well used. The press release today said that 29 countries have jointly pledged more than $5 billion, that this is a major boost to international efforts to protect biodiversity and curb threats from climate change, plastics, and toxic chemicals. This increases GEF's funding by nearly 30%, and it comes at a critical moment for developing countries whose ability to tackle worsening environmental challenges has been strained by fiscal pressures from COVID-19 pandemic and rising inflation. Part of what makes such a pledge possible is the stellar evaluation work done by the Independent Evaluation Office of GEF. So that's what I want to call attention to in celebrating this announcement and this press release. The Independent Evaluation Office has released online, and you can see it at the GEF website, their report on working toward a greener global recovery that reviews the work of the GEF. That report has a meta-evaluation independent advisory panel of very distinguished global evaluation experts who rendered a judgment about the quality of the work of the Independent Evaluation Office that's worth noting, because we need stellar examples of how evaluation can contribute to our future. And this report and the work of the Independent Evaluation Office provide such an example. The Independent Advisory Group said that the quality of the work is impressive, that based on solid evidence, clear methodology, and analysis of multiple funding mechanisms, and consideration of the context of GES interventions, the evaluation sets a high standard for integrated and strategic independent evaluation exercises, both in terms of thematic evaluations and in terms of portfolio evaluation. The report gives important conclusions and recommendations on GEF's overall performance and the portfolio's strategic composition to the GEF senior management and its governance bodies. If placed in the context of a sharply deteriorating global environment and climate change, which are at the core of GEF's mandate, the report's conclusions can be valuable in raising the impact of future choices and, more concretely, the 8th replenishment round. These are important validations of the work of the Independent Evaluation Office. The Independent Evaluation Advisory Group went on to reflect on the methodology of the Independent Evaluation Office and this report. They found that the report is based on a clear methodology and convincingly makes the link between the GEF's logic of evaluation, its funding incentives and choices, and the results achieved. the methodology builds on and further develops its already strong approach, is based on multiple sources of evidence and the application of different methods, thus allowing for adequate triangulation to ensure the reliability and credibility of the findings. The panel commends the IEO for its clarity and transparency when it comes to describing the strengths and weaknesses of the approach that is followed. This is such important work that I want you to meet the director of the Independent Evaluation Office, my colleague in the International Evaluation Academy, and the longtime champion of evaluation for climate mitigation and change, co-editor of the book Evaluating Climate Change Action for Sustainable Development, Juha Uitto. He has brought to this work for all of us internationally a stellar example of what an independent evaluation office can be in a major international agency. And so we celebrate not only the new funds to GEF, but the backstory of evaluation's contribution. Because without solid evaluation, donors cannot have confidence that funds will be well used, both for accountability and for impact. An independent evaluation office plays that role. And let me add that as I review and hold up this report, I have no financial relationship with the Independent Evaluation Office or with GEF. I have only the interest of wanting colleagues around the world to know about this important work. This video has not been commissioned by anyone. I'm doing this because I think it's important that we know both about this work and know about the people, our evaluation colleagues, who are doing this work. And so it's in that context that I want you to know about Juha. He wrote one of the chapters in the new Directions for Evaluation issue devoted to evaluating sustainability. His chapter is called Understanding the Nexus of Natural and Human Systems. And in that chapter, he says, sustainable development has three closely interlinked dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. The evaluation profession has focused primarily on the first two, while largely neglecting the environmental dimension, which is fundamental to achieving social and economic goals. As progress in moving towards sustainable development rests on the foundation of natural resources and environment, evaluation cannot continue ignoring them. Evaluating at the nexus of natural and human systems requires approaches and skill sets that encompass both domains, taking into account their different geographic and time scales. Juha is very modest in his presentation of his work, but I want all of you to know what an important contribution his work is, and in fact, to meet him directly. He has explained the geospatial technologies that independent evaluation offices use. So let me take a minute to let you hear the deep resonant voice of Juha describing these technologies.
At the Independent Evaluation Office of the Global Environment Facility, we have started using geospatial technologies for evaluation. We've used these technologies for looking into biodiversity conservation, protected areas, land degradation, international waters, and so forth. And I think that it's been extremely useful because we've been able to actually track changes in ecosystems, forest cover, vegetation cover, and so forth for decades. We have access to about a quarter century of remote sensing images, and that's great. You can say that it's good for transparency. it's good for data reliability and so forth. And it can actually be also fairly cost effective because this data is available for you. At the same time, remote sensing technology can show to you what has happened and where it has happened, but it doesn't necessarily show you why. So therefore, this is not a substitution for more traditional evaluation methods, but it's an addition. It's a very, very useful addition to the toolkit that we have. But still, we've got to do what we always did: talk to people, go to the sites, and so forth.
As we look to our future, the future of the blue marble, the home of all human beings on planet Earth, this is a day to celebrate and to work together, both as evaluators and in whatever role you may play, toward a more sustainable and equitable future. Congratulations to the International Evaluation Office for their contributions. Congratulations to the Global Environment Facility, and our thanks to the donors, the countries, the people who are working on these important issues. The press release is available online. I urge you to take a look at the Independent Evaluation Office report as an example of some of the best work evaluation is contributing on these issues. I'm Michael Quinn Patton, and those are my reflections on the positive news of April 8, 2022.